What is one thing that has changed the world for the worst? Dopamine high instant gratification. Either TikTok or online influencers making their fans do some questionable stuff. Probably children getting devices at such a young age. I rarely go outside anymore. And I rarely see any other kids go outside anymore. Single-use plastic. Social media. Those fake influencers on YouTube, they are making the world worst. Waking up and realizing that you have no more coffee. The amount of subscription services. Social media and people trusting social media influencers. Influencers. Large-scale news outlets that get to present themselves as facts versus actually being a form of entertainment. COVID. Too much social media. What's a book that you think should be required reading for everyone? 1984 is the obvious answer, especially as governments around the world are becoming more and more censorious and overbearing. Though I suspect for that very reason we're going to see less and less of 1984 or Orwell in general. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. We can all be driven to take the wrong actions under the right circumstances. As far as I'm aware, no unpleasant make it a requirement might cure unpleasantness. Slaughterhouse-Five. The Lord of the Flies. Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky. A cookbook. I'm really surprised at the lack of revered religious volumes here. I would say Animal Farm. Surrounded by Idiots. The Hobbit. To Kill a Favorite Story, a compelling exploration of morals and ethics. Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. Business Secrets of the Pharaohs by Mark Crorigan. Ender's Game. Parents who tried their best to raise their kids to be good humans, but they turned out to be jerks. What do you wish you did differently? I'm speaking as I've seen wildly different siblings. I think parents need to get a handle on that dynamic. A lot of perfectionist older siblings and younger ones who can't achieve at that level and act out instead to find how they can earn attention. Be very careful who you have kids with. If I could do it all over again, I would have chosen better. They ended up with one responsible parent who was completely overwhelmed trying to do the job of two people. The mom of one of the Columbine shooters gave a TED Talk about this. I wish I knew that some grandparents shouldn't be allowed to have a relationship with a vulnerable, easily manipulated child. I wish I knew it was okay to cut people out of your life. Florida state is attempting to make child rape punishable by death. Do you think child rape warrants a death penalty? Why or why not? A lawyer once told me if rape and murder both have the death penalty, then rapists will be more likely to kill the victim to try and hide their tracks. I don't trust the government enough to give them the ability to kill citizens. I don't believe in the death penalty. Innocent people are convicted often. The goal of this law is to get the Supreme Court to allow the death penalty for more crimes that aren't homicides. How far down the criminal severity ladder are we comfortable going with the death penalty? No, it's never a good idea to give the government permission to kill its citizens. The problem with the death penalty isn't what crime is or isn't deserving of it. It's that you can get the wrong people. The government having this unilateral control to execute people is not as a bad and loaded question. Serious, what are some discoveries or inventions that were stumbled upon purely by chance and would still likely be undiscovered today if not found through sheer luck? Rubber vulcanization. Charles Goodyear has searched for years how to make a use of rubber, but the actual discovery of the vulcanization came out of luck after spilling a mixture on a hot stove. You probably heard this already, but penicillin was discovered by accident. Bird migration was discovered when a large bird was found in the north with a projectile from the south stuck in its neck, I think. Before this, it was thought the birds hibernate at the bottom of water bodies or flew to the moon or other dumb shit. The microwave oven. Viagra. Artificial sweetener. Few others I can't remember off the top of my head. Basically a lot things just happen and people go, "Oh, that's neat, I wonder why." What girly hobby do you do that others wouldn't expect? I admit it, I still like young adult fiction, making my own skincare products. A lot of stuff on the market is way too expensive or too harsh on my skin. Started making my own soap, moisturizers, face masks, cleansers, etc. It's also very therapeutic and I get to pamper myself and glow. Cooking and baking. I am about to whip up a sourdough once I end my no carbs fast in about 2 weeks. I'm a sucker for romance and I like to bake. Cooking my family expects everyone to know at least the basics of, but baking has always been more of the girl hobby. For exercise I do yoga and reformer Pilates, and I am always one of few men in every class, if not the only one. Not sure whether it's girly or not, but I watch cute baby animal videos a lot. If you suddenly won $1 million, what would you do with it? Pay off debt, buy a car, buy a house, invest. That would make a world of difference. You'd still have to work, but suddenly 6 months or a year without a job doesn't seem so bad. You could actually find something that makes you happy. Buy a house and a car. That's about it. Sounds ridiculous, but nothing to start with. Set it aside and tell no one. Be a lot of thinking and making plans concrete before I would personally spend a dime. Add it to my brokerage accounts. 2 chicks at the same time. Spend it all on hookers and booze. Take a long and expensive vacation. Invest the rest. Hope it eventually helps towards an earlier retirement. $1 million doesn't go that far. Probably a house down payment. Add it to the pile. Maybe put in a pool for fun. Buy a small apartment. What's a fact that shocks you about a country's history? Slavery was still legal in several countries after the end of last country. To abolish it was Mauritania in 1981. The atrocities committed by Belgium in the Congo. I'd always thought of Belgium as a good country. Obviously not, at least at that period in history. During World War II, every Japanese person in the USA were suspected for being spies or terrorists on behalf of the Japanese government. This led to most all of them being sent to all American-made concentration camps on American soil. 1985 move bombing in the USA. The Mongolian Empire had a lot of territory but didn't rule as long as you would think. The Romans used urine for washing and cleaning teeth. The fact Japan casually denies the rape of Nanking. Africa had a university before Europe. Slaveholders talking about liberty and equality as a human right. Unit 731. 1. Men 50. What are your biggest money regrets? My old landlord offered to sell me the house when I was 25. He wanted IRK for it. I couldn't afford the down, but I probably could have scraped it together if I had really gone out and begged. That same little house is worth IRK now. Was just thinking about this. Back in the early March 29th, 2024, my grandparents died and selling their house left my dad a little money. He invested some of it on my behalf. I wish he or I had been smart enough to drop it in a simple index fund. It would have absolutely killed in the March 29th, 2024. Don't buy stuff that you don't need, and you don't need anything other than a house, a well-fitted dark suit, postgraduate studies, a hobby, and a rigorous physical fitness routine. That's it. Everything else is replaceable, unnecessary, or can be prioritized to last. Alimony. Getting married. It's quite infuriating that you lose hair from the only place where it has an absolute necessity to stay head, but hair from other regions of the body remains intact. My hair falls out when I get health flare-ups. Falls out everywhere though, including my legs. Lashes and are awesome. Haven't shaved in forever and you can't even loosing my lashes sucks. When they start growing back, they go totally rogue and just poke in all different directions, and no amount of styling gets them right, so I have to pluck em or deal with the pokes. You lose it elsewhere too when you age. Why is it an absolute necessity to have hair on the head? Does bald people die from lack of hair? Intact and increase. I once heard that the hair on your anus actually helps to make your forts quieter, so at least the hair there serves some sort of purpose. I don't think you know what absolute or necessity mean. I didn't realize that heat was kinda locked in by body hair until Elle lost it. And I was cold. Cold. What's a terrible movie that you still love because you loved it as a kid? Space Jam. It's a bizarre mashup of basketball and cartoons, but as a kid, it was pure cinematic magic. Bit niche, but blank check for me, I know. It was the March 29th. Shark Boy and Lavagirl and Rodriguez is really good at pulling from kids' imaginations. Yeah, they're cheesy, but I thought the weapons and locations were the coolest things ever. Don't tell Mom the babysitter's dead. The dishes are done, man. Krull. Clash of the Titans 1981. Jason and the Argonauts 1963. Waterworld. I've only heard bad things from everyone in the world about this movie, but I just loved it and always will. The Last Dragon. I must watched that movie 1,000 times. Three Ninjas. Bill Ted's Excellent Adventure. Super Mario Bros. Hook Rufy Oha. Why do people leave out the part that Sisyphus pushes the rock as a punishment? To acknowledge Sisyphus trapped in a tortuous and pointless existence is to succumb to the whims things. To imagine Sisyphus content to continue trying or even happy in his position is to defy the gods. In a world where cosmic beings can punish you in such a sense, it is comforting to know that all their power cannot rob you of your ability to be happy. It comes from Albert Camus' essay The Myth of Sisyphus, which contains the line, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy." Because "don't mess with the gods" is probably a less culturally relevant message than learn to tolerate and find pleasure in mundane and repetitive tasks. Because there was nothing interesting about Sisyphus other than that one relatable metaphor. The metaphor becomes less relatable if it's a punishment, rather than it just be like that sometimes. Reading the book makes it less interesting. Hearing about it third hand makes it a good metaphor.